The running back class for the 2025 NFL Draft is loaded with talent and depth. We're going to talk about how many true bell cow running backs are there in this class. That and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report, and that's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. Guys, thank you so much for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every day. It's got a fun show. We're going to break these running backs, this loaded running back class for the 2025 NFL Draft into tiers. How many bell cows do we have in this class? Those number one RBs, those satellite / change of pace guys, and then just the true pure powerhouses. Let's get into it. Keith, when you look at this running back class, I think for me, I looked at it and I said, looking at from the bell cow standpoint, I have three guys that stand out immediately. Of course, Ashton, Jeanty, Omarion, Hampton, and then for me, I also look at Kaleb Johnson, which I'll get into in a second. And I think you might agree with me. Those top two, I think, are bona fide guys that you feel like you can run your offense through. I think Ashton, Jeanty, even though we both kind of I think you got Omarion Hampton as your RB1. I've been teetering on that same plan as well. I'll take nothing away from Ashton Jeanty. I think if he gets in the right situation, a team that I keep going back to, the Minnesota Vikings. I don't want him to have too many loaded boxes. I want him to be able to run, have free lanes, not deal with what he dealt with at Boise State. With his vision, his footwork, his patience, the discipline, the body control and contact balance. He runs hard behind his pads and everything. Is he built like Omarion? No. Like Omarion's probably 6 foot, 225. Like he looks like Nick Chubb. You know, I mean, I've said that since the moment I watched him, and I was like, yeah, he looks like Nick Chubb a lot to me. So I look at Ashton Jeanty. I said, I think he could be an absolute RB1, funnel your run game through him. And I think another team I keep continuing to link him to is the Chargers. The Chargers at 22 in the first round, at pick 22. If both Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren are off the board, do you force another tight end? I mean, listen, we love Elijah Royer. Do you force Elijah Royer in that spot? Or do you take Ashton Jeanty when you know you need a running back situation? So Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton, I think you can funnel both of those guys, funnel your running game through them and really get the running game going. And they bring different elements because while I think Jeanty is the patient guy, Omarion is the more explosive out of the two, in my honest opinion, when I watch him on tape. He's a more bigger body, but to me, he has more explosiveness. I think long speed is going to be good. He probably is going to test 4.5, 4.4 somewhere in there. But I think that 10-yard split, I think that's going to be where it's going to be the difference for me between those two guys.
Yeah, and so I agree with Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton. The third guy I throw in there, not so much Kaleb, but I probably put Quinshon Judkins back in that conversation as far as bell cow.
So what changed? Because we were kind of wondering what was going on with them throughout Ohio State. What changed for you?
Going back to the film, I think it was simply opportunities, right? Simply opportunities. And where I'm landing with Quinshon, I think is one of those running backs that he gets better with time, right? Like he's going to be the guy that starts breaking runs and
the volume guy.
Yeah, he's going to be volume third and fourth quarter running back, right? Where now he's really taking you to the woodshed. It's fourth quarter, you're tired. He has you beaten up and worn out, and then now he's ripping off those 30-yard games to put him in that 100+ yards a game rushing, situation. So I definitely put Quinshon in that conversation with Omarion Hampton. Because I studied both of these guys, right? Trying to figure out what we're going to do because we was going to drop a top 100 over at the Draft Network. And I was like, man, do I want to put Omarion Hampton over Ashton Jeanty? Just how I wanted to go with that process. And going back and watching Omarion Hampton, I looked at it from the perspective of, who else he reminds me of? Ezekiel Elliott. He reminds me of Zeke.
I've heard that a few times from people. Like they see a lot of
I see
Zeke from him.
Yeah, I see a lot of Zeke from him too. So I like the Nick Chubb call out because that was something I also thought about with him. But he reminds me a lot of Ezekiel Elliott. So I definitely give it with him. Ashton Jeanty, what I think was going to be interesting with the bell cow situation, he's gotten a lot of carries in college, right? Then in NFL, his size, I would be interested to see because I think he's going to come in probably under what he's listed at under 210 right now, I believe somewhere around that
I
210,
think it's like two. I think they have him listed at
12,
215. So
215.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
we'll
he's
see how.
teetering on the 210 to 215. And when you talk about being a bell cow running back in the NFL week in and week out, can you do that consistently, right? Like, can you do that consistently week in and week out?
Not taking the punishment he took at Boise. You can't do that in the NFL. You can't take that type of like not just workload, but like the amount. I think you put it a specific way. Like he took a lot of head-on car collisions.
Yep.
In college, and it was like, yeah, I mean, you run over that 5'10", 185-pound Mountain West safety. Like, yeah, you ran through that.
Yeah.
A little different ball game when it's a strong safety that's 215, 220 who's been playing in the league for 6 years, and he's got a different mindset. Like he plays a lot more physical, and we saw that against the Penn State game was kind of telling for me with Ashton, because it's
where did you land with that Penn State game? Because I just went back and watched that one too.
That game was tough because it was like, okay, I get the built-in excuse of we don't have a true passing attack to take some of the pressure off of him, things like that, but the stuff that he was doing against Mountain West competition, the barreling through, the contact back, like, yeah, he had some good runs in that game, but he also had 2 fumbles because it's like you can't just live off of contact at 5'9", 210, 215. You got to make some guys miss, and I just didn't see that a lot. And then even there was a run in that game, and you probably remember, where it was like a alley, and he hit it, but he got caught pretty quickly. And I was just like I feel like when he gets to top end speed, his top end speed is good, but I feel like he has so much build up to it to where it's not immediate. I don't think he's gonna. I'm gonna be worried. We'll like next week is the combine. We'll preview that and everything getting into next week. But I'll be interested to see what his 10-yard split looks like, because I don't know how explosive he actually is as a player. So it's like, if you're not the most explosive guy, that's where that, I call it hide and seek, as a shorter back, just ducking and popping out behind your offensive lineman, finding running lanes. That physicality that Penn State brought, they matched the physicality he's played with all season, and it didn't go in his favor. That was a tough game for him because, yeah, the fumbles were bad. He didn't break enough tackles. He didn't make guys miss, like, with elusiveness. Those are the things you're going to have to do at the next level. You cannot be expected to have all those head-on collisions and be successful with that at the next level.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think just trying to just figure it out with Ashton, right? Because it's like there's so much there, and then it's like I see so much good, but then, like you say, it's the clear conversation of level of competition, right? It's like all of these broken tackles. If these are NFL defenders, if these are SEC defenders, what happens, right? And I think it's somewhere in the middle that he doesn't have the same level of production, but also he's not, oh my God, he can't play at all, right? So I'm trying to figure out what's that middle ground, and then that middle ground compared to what we've seen Omarion Hampton, who's the better running back? And that's where I kind of find myself.
I want to ask you, because I can't remember who I saw put it this way. Was it Matt Miller? I don't remember, but I saw it on Twitter. Somebody compared him to Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara plays right there in your backyard. You've seen him his entire career. I don't know. Were you at LSU when he was at Tennessee?
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't.
Oh, because I remember he went from Bama to Tennessee.
Yep.
And then, he was a 3rd-round pick. Like, you know what I mean?
Honestly, the thing is that I don't even remember Alvin Kamara really a whole lot through the college process, right? Like it's like
I think he only had like 1 year.
Yeah, his pro career was much better than his NFL. So he may have been there, DP. But the Alvin Kamara comp, this is where I see the ability to bounce off tackles and contact balance. That's what I think. There's some levels to this, but I think more of the Aaron Joneses of the world, right? Like I'm like, I thought of Doug Martin a little bit. I'm trying to I'm trying to find a comp for him. The Ashton Jeanty evaluation, has been very difficult, DP. But let's keep this thing going, man. We talked about guys.
Well, hold on, Keith. I want to throw something to you real quick. When we talk about Caleb, and you tell me if you have, it's 2 comps I landed on. I've been going through comps for him for the longest. I was at one of the points, it was James Conner. I was like, I feel like his footwork is cleaner and he's just more smooth than James Conner. 2 names that popped up to me: DeMarco Murray and then Arian Foster when he was with the Texans.
I like the DeMarco Murray one. I like the DeMarco Murray one. I think Arian was even a little bit more smoother, right? You think about that classic running that stretch zone, putting that foot in the ground.
You never knew where he was going.
Yeah, yep. I like the
Never knew.
DeMarco Murray run. I think that's a
It felt
I
right.
think that's a really good comp because they both kind of upright runners. They're probably same height,
Yeah.
same build, got a little bit of the stumbling, rumbling to themselves, but they can
Mhm.
surprise you with a putting a foot in the ground kind of lateral move to where
Yeah.
they condense their frame a little bit. They're not gonna make you miss, but it's gonna be an arm tackle that they can run through, right? And that's how I feel
For sure.
about Caleb Johnson. But ultimately, they run with power also. But DP, man, the opposite of power, man, is the change of pace running backs, and we got a lot of them. This class has a lot of them. We want to talk about those guys and what guys we're putting in that tier when you need a change of pace, satellite type running back that you can play on the edges. We'll talk about that coming up next.
This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a tax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax live full service, real-time updates, only available in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Satellite/change of pace backs. Keith, I think about, and this was a guy that we both were high on when we said it. I don't know if you should go back to school after last year coming back for 2024. That's Travion Henderson from Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Travion is the perfect change of pace back because he's got the vision, the footwork, the patience, the long speed. He's functional in the passing game. He's actually, a good pass protector as well. But we only seen him be the bell cow 1 year. That was his freshman year. The back-to-back years after that, he got hurt back like both seasons. He missed games. He was hurt. He was injured. Then we saw him play more as that complimentary RB 1A, 1B with Quinshon this year, and he looked the best that he's looked since his freshman year. I think he's the ideal change of pace back for a team that already has that number one guy. You know what I mean? They already have that number one guy solidified. For example, if the Buffalo Bills didn't have our guy Ray Davis, I think Travion would have been a perfect RB2 behind James Cook. You know what I mean? Because he brings a similar body type and style of play and everything like that. I think Ray ran a little bit more physical and harder. Travion, the thing with Travion, he finishes runs hard, but it's like you work like the short yardage situations where you don't have that full runway to gain up the full speed to run through a guy where you got to move the pile. I don't know if he's going to be able to do those type of runs at the NFL level consistently, but if Blake Corum wasn't in Los Angeles with the Rams, I think he'd be a nice compliment to what they have in Kyron Williams. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Things of that nature. Or even going back to the Saints, you got Alvin Kamara. I think I forget the young man they drafted at TCU that's been hurt a lot.
Miller.
Yeah, Keandre Miller. So like if that situation that doesn't pan out, he would be a good spot there. I think he is the ideal and maybe the top change of pace back. But I think the best satellite back is our guy Brashard Smith out of SMU. Like that's the best space back in this class.
And thinking about a comp for him, this is tough. I'm gonna go with this name, Tariq Cohen. And Tariq Cohen, good years, right? Because they're both smaller in stature, extremely explosive. And I think that, and obviously Tariq had injuries and things like that, right? But there were moments in years that he had really productive years, right? Like he was a piece, a focal point of an offense, and especially that Chicago offense that was struggling, right? So he didn't necessarily get placed in the best situations. But I think about the usage of, can you run him out at wide receiver, right? Can he catch the ball out of the backfield? Now you have an explosive weapon, screens, jet sweeps. I think there's more to unlock from Brashard Smith and using his explosiveness because we've seen it at the Senior Bowl. The speed is real. The acceleration is real. He's running away from people. And now it's a matter of just manufacturing plays to give him them open alleys to where he can just turn the jets on and go. But you also understand this, that he's less than 190 pounds, right? So it's not a very big guy, kind of short to the ground. That's why I thought of Tariq Cohen because Tariq was the same way, right? 190 pounds, explosive vertically, could do some things in the open field.
Two names, because I went to mock draftable key because I was trying to looking at, like you said, the weight range, because he's listed like 5'10", like what, 5'10", 196. So he's probably 190, 185, somewhere in there. And I was looking at mock draftable, two names that popped immediately when I saw it. Devon Achane, who was with the Miami Dolphins. He came in at 180. He's listed at 188. And remember Demetric Felton from UCLA, who was kind of, I think Demetric might have been another one of those RB receiver converts, because he can line up and actually run routes and do different things like that. So looking at, when I saw those two names, and a name that, if it's not even a throwback name, I don't know what happened to him, but Jerrion Ely, that was at Ole Miss in 2022.
Oh, yeah,
another smaller stat, like that similar build. He absolutely was. He ran the ball very well. I don't know what happened with his career, you know what I mean, and everything, but like it wasn't even that long ago. It was literally 2022. You know what I mean? This wasn't like 2015, but it feels like it's been that long that since he was at Ole Miss. But I think Devon Achane, I would say, I think the pass catching version of Devon Achane, where like that speed, that explosiveness, that like home run hitting ability, but a guy that I could get matched up on linebackers and he can route you up. You know what I mean? I don't think Devon had that in this game, that hit fluidity and just change the direction that we see with Brashard Smith. But I absolutely think another, like I said, putting him, just thinking about the starting, you know what? The Indianapolis Colts behind Jonathan Taylor, you talking about giving Anthony Richardson that easy button in the passing attack, like that dual threat type of situation. You can come out and deuce, you know what I mean? Shotgun and deuce with two running backs in the backfield, and you can give you different looks with that triple option look with Anthony Richardson's running ability, having Brashard Smith as kind of the pitch guy, or just motioning Brashard out, getting him the ball with bubble screens, different things of that nature, those manufactured touches that allow him to be just a dynamic space player that he is. I mean, I just looking at this, at that situation, he's going to be one of those guys that absolutely fits that mold as that RB2 pass catching third down guy. He feels like one of those mid 2000 Patriots guys. You know what I mean? With Tom Brady is like, yeah, they go empty. He's got Brashard Smith in the backfield, the James White, the your guy from LSU, Kevin Falk. He's not of that same build because those guys are a little bit more filled in from their body, bigger builds, but just that ability to really give you hell in the passing attack because you can't cover him with a linebacker. You know, we watched James White catch like 10 passes.
That's what I was about to say, DP. Actually, it might be the 2010 versions of the Patriots, right? When they had Sony Michel and James White and Danny Woodhead, right? It might be that version of the Patriots, where it was all of those running backs coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think, just kind of looking at this class overall, Keith, how do you feel about Jarquez Hunter? Where does he fall? Because I know this is a guy we both like and you love him. Where does he fall for you in this type of tiering situation?
Yeah, I know it's tough, right? Because, I don't think he's just a change of pace back because he runs with more power and he's more sturdy than that. Now, do I want to say he's a powerhouse runner either? No, I think he's just a well-rounded player. I think he's a well-rounded running back that he will get times to start in the NFL. Do you want another complimentary piece with him? Yes, right. But I like Jarquez there. I think there will be years where in the NFL where he's NFL's team starting running back because I think he's a nice blend of everything, right? Like all of these different categories we put, I think he's just a nice blend of all of them. And maybe he's closer to the bell cow back, right? Just a guy that you could get a ball to 20, 25 times a game, let him roll from there. But before we transition, DP, I wanted to mention two other names. One guy who's been totally off the radar. I don't think he had any all-star invites. Kyle Manun guy from Rutgers, right?
Yes.
Talking about a change of pace guy, jittery back. And people have to remember Aaron Jones went in the 5th round, right? Out of was it UTEP? I think he was at UTEP, right? I think he went in the 5th round, right? But the ability to make people miss. And some guys, they enter better situations in the NFL than what they were in college, right? And so if he's in a good situation, he gets spaces and creases, he's going to make some plays. And then lastly, like I said, a guy that I believe has some of the best footwork in his entire draft, RJ Harvey. This is a clear definition of a change of pace back. You got a power guy to come in there and hit people over the head, right? And then he's going to come in there and make them miss and have them falling and stumbling over themselves. And then he's going to hit them with a little electricity and acceleration at the top of it.
Absolutely. No, I love RJ Harvey. I think I'm glad you brought him up. I think he's one of those ideal change of pace backs. His footwork, the jump cuts that he has laterally, he's one of those guys that's going to make some defenders look silly at the next level because of his ability to escape. Like he could press the interior gaps, and he has that lateral like. And I think I said it before. If I could take one skill to give it to somebody else, I would take RJ Harvey's lateral agility and explosiveness and footwork and give it to Ashton Jeanty. Because I think you do that, you make him the true RB1 in this class. Because then that elusiveness, not saying that Ashton can't make people miss, but RJ Harvey is one of the best in this class at it. And making guys miss at the line of scrimmage, the second level, and if he gets you one-on-one down the field, he does it as well.
Yep. DP, let's wrap this thing up with the powerhouse runners, right? The guys that tote the rock, the big bodies, the 225 plus guys. We're going to talk about those guys coming up next.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team, my Detroit Pistons for a late-game rally, or picking Cade Cunningham to hit a late-game three, a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you get paid, or when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 back in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, powerhouse runners. And Keith, one of the guys that I think this is the role he has to fill in, Khalil Mullings from Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't realize he's only 22 years. Like he just turned 22 not too long ago, maybe like 3 months ago. He just turned 22. 6'2", 230 pounds, rock solid, like hammerhead, downhill. He's going to run through a brick wall. That's it. That's his game. 3 yards in the cloud of dust. He does have some nice footwork to be able to kind of, be a little smooth and nimble footed and stuff like that. But his game is power. His game is running downhill, body control, contact balance, running through arm tackles. This is a guy that if I think about going back to the Chargers, if they wanted to move off from Gus Edwards, you know what I mean? Because Gus isn't the same guy he was in Baltimore. He's older and older in his career now. You want to move off of him. I think Khalil Mullings is absolute, I think that's his comp as a Gus Edwards type back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, just be that game. I think if they didn't want to go RB, go Ashton Jeanty early, they wanted to draft a Khalil Mullings and pair him with another like a Trevor Etienne in this class, that would be a really good situation because that 6 to 8 minute offense in the fourth quarter, you got a 2 touchdown lead on Pat Mahomes. You want to keep him off the field and drain the clock. Khalil Mullings is that guy you need.
Yeah, no, Khalil Mullings was definitely a name I was going to bring up in this category. And obviously, we can't talk about power backs without talking about Cam Scatterbull, right? And what he can do as a running back. I think he
could be in the change of pace backs too, Keith, because he catches the ball at the backfield.
100%. He can also do that. But then I think about a name, DP, that showed well at the Senior Bowl, Damian Martinez, right? Showed his power, what he was able to run with in between the tackles. I think he's a clear definition of this year's version of power backs, right? Guys that just gonna lower the helmet, run through people's face time and time again, right? Like the old beast mode saying. Another guy that's been all the way off the radar. And it was funny because I was talking to Spencer Rattler about his South Carolina days, and he was just, asking the guy he's excited about, right? And he was like, Rocket Sanders. And I was like, forgot about him, right? And a healthy Rocket Sanders DP, like we could potentially talk about him as a bell cow running back, right? Like a healthy, in shape Raheem Sanders. He's just been totally off the radar, but put him on your radar because if you get him healthy for a few years, you can have yourself a complete running back at 230 pounds, right? This is a big boy that can move.
6 foot 230.
Yeah, 6'6", 230. A big boy that can move, and he has some acceleration and speed. Runs with power as well. But I think right now I would put him in a powerhouse runners category.
No, 100%. He was at the Shrine, and they say he looked good down in North. I think there was at North Texas University. They say he looked good in practice and everything. I think and we saw what he looked like this year. Like he bounced back from where it was like the injuries and stuff for the last 2 years prior. He looked like the old Rocket Sanders, him and Lenore Sellers in that backfield for those South Carolina Gamecocks. Can't wait for his pro day. I plan on trying to make an appearance out there, Keith. A guy that we didn't get a chance to talk about. I honestly, to be honest with you, I just realized that he's in this class. I didn't know he declared. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, 5'11", 201. I think he probably wouldn't be the in the powerhouse category, but he's probably gonna be more of that satellite back, change a pace back situation, maybe potentially a bell cow depending on the running offense. But I know you being the SEC guy, I know you probably watched him. Like I honestly, he's 20 years old. I'm really shocked he declared. I felt like he could have been one of the he could have been one of the top backs next year. Him, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, stuff like that. But he decided to declare. Where would you, right now, going into this class, where would you put Dylan Sampson in our tier rankings? Do you think he could be a bell cow, or is he more of that change of pace, explosive back, similar to his former teammate Jalen Wright? When he left Tennessee to go to Miami.
I think he's probably more of the change of pace, satellite type back, right? I think if you have a team that runs out a lot of shotgun, right? Like you do a lot of 11 personnel, something like that. I think he's a prime running back for that, to where, he's deep in the backfield. He's able to read the line of scrimmage and take advantage of those creases and use acceleration. Like, okay, cool. It's the cliche saying of slow to quick through, right? And I think that's what he can operate in, is that approaching the line of scrimmage, boom, find me a crease, give me some space, and I'm going to slash you, right? I think it's more of like a slashing type, but a slashing type out of the shotgun. And that's what he is, and he can be extremely impactful in that way. And I think he's a talented running back, DP. I think your viewpoint is probably a representation of the entire industry. Is that everybody was like, wait, he's in the draft, right? Like, because everybody talks about him during the season, like, oh, best running back. But I feel like for some reason his declaration kind of went unknown. For some reason,
it legitimately did. It felt like he didn't have much steam behind it, but it was just like. So somebody when I got the text, like, hey man, like, you checked out Dylan Sampson? I'm like, no, he's not. He's next year. Like, you know what I mean? Well, I'm like, and they was like, bro, no, he declared. And I'm like, nah, that's not true. And I went to his Instagram. That's what, if you want to know if a guy declared, go to his Instagram. Went to his Instagram and I saw the graphic and I was like, oh, he's in his class. Like, okay, like, yes, we go get some starting running backs that are absolutely undrafted free agents. Like, that's just where we are with this entire class, because I don't see how we get, like, how teams figure out, like, we talk about how much the NFL devalues the position. This is one of those classes that's going to help the people who say the running back position is devalued. They're going to use this as a case point to devalue the position, because of how many running backs are in this class. Because it's more underclassmen, I feel like, than we expected it to be. You know what I mean? Where, like, the guys who still had eligibility, Quint Allen from Syracuse, Dylan Sampson, like, multiple guys. But Keith, I'll close my Quinshon, Ollie, like, just multiple guys. Jordan James from Oregon, he's 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like there's multiple guys that you're just like, man, you could have went back one more year. But Keith, I'm gonna close this thing out with one guy. He's a little bit older prospect for those who are ageist. Like, you discriminate on older prospects. A guy that I talked to you about in the fall, and it was all because of the NCAA game, Quinshon Jackson, as a powerhouse, the 6'2", 230-pound back who transferred from Utah, had a good season with the Razorbacks or Arkansas. That physical run style got him a little banged up. He was a little nicked up at times this year because of how physical he does run. But I think teams that, because I mean, there's a lot of smoke around, like, the Ramondre Stevenson situation, and in New England, you're bringing in a new coach and everything like that. Like, because I think Ramondre has struggled with, like, the fumbles throughout his career, things not holding on to the football. So he might be on watch for a team to draft his predecessor and the heir to the throne of RB1 for that team. I think if Mike Vrabel wants to draft a back late in the draft that fits that, nobody's Derrick Henry. I don't think we'll ever see another Derrick Henry. You know what I mean? but someone to fit that kind of body type, physical style, zone presence, things of that nature, duo runner. Jaquinda Jackson, late in the draft, 6th round, 7th round, depending on how he tests. We'll see how he tests, and if he goes to the combine, pro day, all that type of stuff. I think this is a guy that could fit that mold for them. This is one of the better. It feels like one of the lesser known power backs and just backs in the class. When it's kind of at this point, it's kind of hard to stand out. These guys better run fast. That's all I know. You get to the combine, you invited, you better run fast. This is the only way you're gonna stand out in this class.
100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, thank you so much for being our everydays. On tomorrow's show, we're going to look. Hey, the news gave us something to talk about. T. Higgins maybe getting the franchise tag. How does that impact the 2025 wide receiver class? We're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.